Hello, everybody. I'm Catherine Buffy, and this is Stories from the Stage, a short video series that takes a peek behind the scenes at Redlands Footlighters Theater to learn more about our history and the people who make theater magic in the Inland Empire. So in a normal year, about this time, our theater would be a hive of activity as we prepare for our season finale that typically opens at the end of May. But sadly, this is not a normal year. So instead of building sets and memorizing lines, we're all sheltering safely at home, as we hope you are too. And so instead of bringing you written stories about characters in the world, we'll use our time to bring you stories about the directors, actors, and technical crews that have worked with Footlighters over our 75-year history. And today, I am joined by actor and director Jeff Richards. Hey there, Jeff.
Hello there.
And Jeff has performed on stage at Footlighters and directed there as well. And he is scheduled to direct again in our 2021 season, fingers crossed. So, full disclosure, I am Mrs. to Jeff's Mr. So you might think that I already know all there is to know about Jeff's directorial experience, but you would be incorrect. And so I'm very excited to have the chance to do this deep dive with you all into the mind of a director with Jeff Richards. So Jeff, are you ready for this?
I'm ready, sure.
This tour de force? Okay,
Yeah.
So let's start with an easy one. How many years have you been directing, or when did you first start directing?
Let's see, directing wise, it was probably, gosh, has it been 30 years already? Close to it, if not, yeah. Was the first one I directed, a show over at Chino at the time, talk radio, which was an interesting one to start with, and I think about it now, because it's such a unique show. So yeah, it's been like, I guess close to 30. I'm going by my daughter's age, so yeah, I think it's right.
So roughly over the last 30 years, how many shows do you think?
I know, 21, 22 maybe, something like that. Yeah.
And what was the first show that you directed at Footlighters?
At Footlighters, it was No Sex Please, We're British. And that was, my friend Kay Lake, who pushed me into that, which was a fantastic experience,
So you were and are still a performer. You were an actor first. So do you prefer acting or directing? Yeah, is there one that's sort of like, yes, if I could only do one, this is the one I would do? Do you have a preference, or?
Would probably have to say it would probably be more performing. I think they both offset each other. I think they balance each other out. I think by directing, it's also helped on stage and vice versa, because I like to think that I'm an actor's director. When you're directing, you have, it's a different, I guess it would be more a creative release. It's a completely two different experiences. When you're directing, there's a lot of variables. If you end up getting a job at a theater, you're pretty much a guest at their house. So you have to like walk through the certain kind of territorials things that take place there, and you go in with a thought of what your vision is, and it invariably changes, and a lot of times for the good. I love the rehearsal process. That part of it, I just really enjoy working with the actors and working and taking scenes apart and breaking them down and trying new things. I love to see what people bring. So that's always such a, that's always such a joy, to do that.
You say you're an actor's director, or you like to think that you are. What does that mean to you? Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, I respect what they bring. I really, casting is so important, and you're going to be working with these people for, and be around them for 3 months. So there is a sense of family that kind of comes with each show, albeit different types of families. But so I enjoy what they bring. It's almost you have to become part, maybe a part counselor. You see what they come naturally to them, and hopefully just take and just accentuate all the positives from that. I always think if it's a good experience and a creative atmosphere for the actors, it'll parlay itself into a good show, and from the good show, then it's good for the theater. So it's a win-win-win kind of thing.
So what drew you to directing?
It was actually over at Chino again. I believe Tony Lind at the time was maybe the artistic director. So she was, looking for directors for the next season. And she planted the seed, which was like, and it made sense to me. And we had a nice conversation about that. I'm not sure if you'll remember it, but you've been doing theater for so many years, and you kind of build up a lot of experience that we don't even really think about. But for younger people coming up, we are like, the ones that have been there, and hopefully, we can pass on that. So it was kind of a giving back, so to speak. The first show was actually, I think it was a precursor to their 3 on the Edge or the Weekender series. I think it was called Talk Radio, and it wasn't really it wouldn't be appropriate for the regular season. So there was a nice introduction into that. Taking the seat on, in the audience and directing, as opposed to be up on the stage. And it worked out really well. In fact, that would be one that I would love to address again sometime, because it just, after all the experience for these years, now at this point to go back and go, yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that again for that show. But so yeah, that was basically, how that all started. And so it turned out well, and I enjoyed the whole process. So then you do it again.
So over the last 30 years, you've had a chance to develop a craft as a director. And what would you say is a director's primary job? What should a director be doing? What should an audience notice that a director is doing? How should a director know, and how should an audience know when a director has been successful?
Wow. I guess the normal thing you would think about is box office, and that necessarily doesn't really parlay a lot of times to, the success that you feel. I mean, you always like to see a good audience and word of mouth and so forth to come out, but that there's a good show there. But I think when it comes out for me is the fact that if your name is on the marquee, if your name is on the program, you are the director, then you just want to put out a quality product. And in doing that, then I guess in the realization of seeing it and knowing, well, this is the best that I could do, I didn't leave anything behind. I guess that would be the level of I don't know, what would you call it, success, I guess, But also with the actors, if I see them grow, and I love to cast, I don't precast ever, and also to watch them develop, especially newer ones that haven't had much experience, and I just see it. You just absolutely see it. You need to be on stage, and I want to work with you. And then to see them catch the bug and go on and do other things is really successful. And with me, it's trying to make it look as natural as can be, and then to kind of erase yourself from the product. If you kind of like all of a sudden, if you can just like, it looks like the director is no longer there, which they usually aren't. It's in the show, we become invisible, and that's like kind of work our way out of a job. And it's their show, and it's that piece of canvas we painted, and hopefully it gets a response, from the audience. So
how do you determine when you read a script or see a show, what are you looking for in a show that you want to direct? What is it that's drawing you to a particular story or a script?
well, of course, the storyline. I think that it's a character-driven, plays that always interest me. Kind of a smaller, intimate, um, like the independent film kind of things. I like when it's a little bit of a mix. I guess you would say like a comedy, like a dramedy. That it's it has humor, but it also has some weight. I mean, I've directed a lot of the just absolute nothing but fun. Say fluff, but just straight comedies, and they are really a lot of fun to do. But I naturally go towards ones that have a little bit more, I guess, a little bit of both, just to be able to take the audience on that little journey that kind of, flows through.
Mm-hmm. But speaking of types of shows, looking back over, you said you directed something like 22 shows. And you've been in even more than that. So would we say maybe twice as many shows that you've been involved with in one way or another?
At least
45, something like that?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, oh yeah.
What's the most challenging show that you've ever directed?
I ever directed.
And why was it challenging?
I directed a musical once, which I realized I was over my head in that because, I mean, I wasn't thinking ahead, and I hired my own band to do the music. So in Tech Week, where I should be out there fixing everything, I'm stuck back there, hitting licks. So I made a mistake there, and we had some, that was some challenging moments in that show. So that was one. Breaking up is hard to do, but it turned out fine. It just was one of those things. They go, I don't think I'll do that again. And then the other one was a Gift of the Magi. Oh my God. So I was directing Gift of the Magi in Chino, and this is back when they would advertise in Dramalog. So I got two actors coming in from, I think, Studio City in North Hollywood. I don't know why, I cast them because they had a good look. They had a great look. And that's where I learned my lesson about looks versus talent. And they were talented, but I learned my lesson on that one because what happened was they started carpooling to Chino, and they end up having, they became boyfriend and girlfriend, okay, in the course of rehearsal. And a week before we open, they break up. And so now I have two actors that hate each other. They're doing the most, like the epitome of a love stories you can ever have. And they're like Richard Gere and Deborah Winger. And, passion, what we see as passion was really disgust. So that was like one of those moments where I go, okay, lesson learned. Yeah, so those are the two that kind of pop into my head.
Well, I can see why those are memorable.
Yes. Yeah.
And we hope everyone out there joins us for the next installment of this series, Stories from the Stage. Take care, stay safe. Bye now.